This is Larry the Barberman, and today we are at Barber Connect 2017. Today I'm with the owner of the world-renowned barbershop Savills, Joth Davies. Joth Davies is the owner of the brand Copasetic, which caters for apparels and pomades. He is also a Wahl ambassador, and also he has his own barber academy called Savills. So welcome back, Joth. I interviewed you, I think it was 2 years ago.
Crack, is it that long?
At the very early stages of the Larry the Barberman career and path. Just to bring ourselves back to where we were before, you started your business 30 odd years ago. You started in hairdressing school. You then went on to learn barbering at an Italian barbershop. By all accounts, it was by trial and error. You came up with the concept of the shop from some Italian guys who had a shop similar to what you have in Wales on the back end of going to a Salon International to trial for American crew.
You got it.
Good.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about your shop again, in your own words.
So, well, I mean, it's been, you know, my life kind of, well, not lifelong dream, but that was always my vision from very early on when I really got into kind of barbering, and because I always loved that era, that 1920s era, and the architecture and the clothing, and particularly the haircuts as well. I was always kind of, you know, slowly trying to turn the shop, you know, that I had, the shops that I had at that time into where we have now, where we are now, which is, you know, I say it in a lot of interviews, when I walk out of the shop in an evening when everybody's gone and it's just there by myself, and because we've been in there maybe 3 years this month, I think now actually, I don't realise it until I kind of turn around just as I'm locking the door, and then I look back through the shop and I kind of go, yeah, this is exactly always what I wanted. And it's getting better as it gets older as well, because there's more stuff put in, there's more pictures on the wall, there's more things going on. So, yeah, it's kind of what I've always wanted, and it's never going to change, you know. I mean, I had a lot of people coming in when we had the opening night. There's a lot of hairdressers that were invited, local hairdressers, and they were like, well, yeah, this is great, but what's going to happen when the fashion changes? And I'm like, it's never going to change. It's the classic. I'm never going to change the shop, and that was one of the other reasons why I wanted to do that thing as well. Because when we had shops before, and they were kind of like modern and salons for men, which was never really my thing, we were constantly refitting the shop all the time. And the shop that we have now is never going to change. It's just going to improve with age, and things will get added, and things like move around a little bit. But essentially, it's always going to be that way.
It's almost like saying, the architecture of Big Ben has changed from how many hundreds of years ago, and people are going to stop visiting it. So.
Well, I don't think we're quite as iconic as Big Ben, but that would be nice, yeah.
No, in terms of the 1920s, you get what I'm saying? It's never going to change, is it?
No.
You know, Bugsy Malone movies and so forth are never going to go away. So since I last saw you, you've now become a Wahl ambassador. Mm. Tell me a little bit about your role as a Wahl ambassador, and why you think you was chosen.
Well, I did some work for Wahl a long time ago when I first started work for American Crew, when they first came into the country, when I was doing an education role for them around then, and then Wahl picked up on what I was doing then, and I started doing some things then, and I think it's what we talked about last time. And then I was out of hairdressing for a long time with a shoulder injury, and then when I came back in, and obviously with what's been going on with Savills, I think, you know, and because I knew Simon from a long time ago, from bumping into him at various events, and we just kind of got talking, and then Simon obviously really liked what we were doing, and the talks obviously started to step up a little bit, and then he invited me to do a few little guest spots on their stage, and then I've got a massive admiration for Simon and how he operates his team within the UK, and the people that he picks and stuff like that aren't always the obvious people, and we just really get on. So, you know, I did a couple of guest spots. You obviously liked what we did and liked the brand, and I think Wahl were looking for some people, some ambassadors that they like to work with, and that, I don't know, for their new products and things like that. So when the new products come out, we get sent a lot of the clippers to trial and test those and give them feedback, and then more recently, last year, Simon approached me about the men's method and this program that's been rolled out in the States about 12 months ago now. And he just showed me like a 30-second clip of this kind of little video of what it was about, and asked me would I be interested in rolling that out for them. And I immediately jumped at it, just because, you know, I love education, I love teaching, but also I've always used Wahl products. It was kind of the first pair of clipper that I picked up. The first pair of clipper that I bought was a super taper, and I've used them ever since. I mean, I used different brands, you know, throughout the time, but I've always gone back to Wahl. And so yeah, and then we kind of spent the next 6 to 12 months kind of working on that and finding out more about it. And now I think my title position is Principal Educator for Men's Method in the UK. So there'll be myself and a couple of other guys that I'll pick to be part of the team. Someone will cover the north and someone will cover the south, and then I'll do the middle bit. I've picked those 2 people already, but I think they have to remain a secret until all the things are signed and everything else. So kind of watch this space. They are fantastic barbers. I really hope they can come on board.
Okay, and could you go into a little bit more detail of what the men's method actually is?
Sure. So the men's method is an education program that's rolled out in the colleges. So historically, for me, being in the business now for 29 years, whenever there's been a hairdresser or a barber that's been trained at the college and then trying to get a job afterwards and come into the barbershop, from what I've seen, is that they've never been ready to hit the ground running. And I think some of the education in terms of teaching men's hairdressing and barbering in the colleges has always been from a hairdressing perspective and never from a barbering perspective. So I'm not saying that it's been done poorly, I'm just saying it's very different, the hairdressing to a barbering. I know, because I was a hairdresser, and the way that I used to cut men's hair from a hairdressing perspective to the way that I do it now as a barber is very different. And so Wahl have obviously always worked quite heavily with the colleges and stuff like that, and then in the States they came up with this program where it consists of, you know, a package that they will get, which has the DVDs and the books and everything with it, and they also get the set of clippers, and then they'll get the gowns and all the posters and everything that they can put up. So they create this barbering section around the colleges, and then there's the undergraduate, and then there's the graduate. So there's 9 different haircuts, and then they'll be able to fit those modularly into their curriculum. So the graduate would be probably towards the end of the barbering, and then the undergraduate would be at the beginning, which is, you know, lots of sections and lots of step-by-step. So that you have step-by-step DVDs, and then they'll also be online as well, so the students will be able to go back and visit those online with passcodes and have a look at those so that they can keep refreshing it. My job is to go in and train the trainers. So I will go in to the colleges that obviously that all the colleges have to be vetted properly first to become an affiliated member, a Men's Method affiliate. And then I would go in and do 2 days training on the haircuts and on the method involved, and on the ideology, and also the history of Wahl, and a little bit about my history and everything as well. And then those teachers would then train the students. And then after a period of months, what we'll do is we will then go back and assess the colleges, make sure that they're delivering it properly and as it should be, and essentially whether I deliver it or whether the other 2 barbers that we're talking about deliver it, it should be exactly the same. There should be no difference in the way it's delivered. Obviously, personality-wise, and things will change a little bit, but in terms of the methodology, that's how it stays. And then it's just going to be a really structured way of teaching in the colleges of men's hairdressing and barbering, but then also, you know, heavily influenced from Wahl. I think it's a fantastic project, and I'm really excited to be part of it.
And that's going to be available from?
I think I think I'm delivering something in. We've done a pilot already with MK College in Milton Keynes, and they're going to be the first to take it on. So I'm doing something with them, I think, with July, and then once we've done that, then it'll start rolling out after then. So towards the end of the year, it should be rolling out September, October, November.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Especially
really
with my 2 weeks of training, and I'm nearly shop ready.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I am, yeah. And just being part of Wahl as well, it's they're just a really good company to be around, and I was really fortunate enough to go to Chicago a couple of months ago to go and see the factory and meet the family, and I was part of the Global Summit. I think there was like 25, 27 different countries, people from 27 different countries there. To talk about Wahl and the Clippers and education and what it is to be part of that, and we got to meet Lance Wahl and Greg Wahl and the family, and they're all just such down to earth, nice people, and to see the size of the operation, it's just incredible. Then to walk around the factory as well and see it all being produced and learn more about the clippers and more in depth and stuff, because as a barber we've always just taken it for granted. You pick them up and switch them on and that's it. I've always gone, well, kind of, you know, the super taper looks just like the magic clip, and the magic clip looks just like and they all kind of look the same, and you're thinking, well, they're all the same, but what's so different? But they are. Different motors inside them, different mechanisms, different cutting blades, and they're all there doing different jobs. And the technology and the advancement that they've got now, and the new things that they're creating all the time. There's some really exciting things to come out of Wahl soon. So keep an eye on that one.
Okay, so yeah. From the clippers to the pomade, let's talk about Copasetic. What's happening with that?
So Copasetic was. It just seemed like the next thing for us to do, a range of hair products, because we've done the academy, and I started doing some like little accoutrements and leather tool rolls and just things that I wanted as a barber and was getting made for me. And then when I made them, I was like, actually, people were saying that's really nice, I would want one. So I never really designed the accoutrements, the barbers, especially the apron as well, and that sort of thing to actually sell them. They were all initially just for me and for us in the shop, and then the popularity of people seeing them on social media then sort of drove us to kind of actually mass produce them. So we thought, well, the hair products is the next thing that we kind of need to do. And when I was thinking about what we would call the products, because that's always the difficult thing. What do I call my shop? What do I call the products? Because once you've got the name, that's it. It's there, you know. And I kept coming up with loads of different names, and I was really struggling with what to think. So I kind of stopped and then thought, right, how do I want to market the brand? And that was really easy then, because, you know, again, the 20s and all that vibe, all that era, and I know how I wanted the products to look. And you know, my when I was having discussions with the designers was, you know, I want it to look like it's something you found in the back of your granddad's bathroom cabinet in the back somewhere, sitting with a little bit of dust on the top, but it's kind of all aged and everything, or like you'd walked into a 1920s apothecary chemist, you know, where they've got all these like beautiful coloured bottles and different shapes and sizes, and then when I was looking at the old brands and how that stuff that you can still buy now, like the Brill cream, those adverts and those bottles and stuff, I mean, they're antiques now, and you can still buy those, and I do buy them and I have them in the shop because they think they're beautiful things, and that's what I would love Copasetic to be long term, is to be in that position where everybody kind of loves the way they look so much that maybe that stands the test of time, especially with the advertising and the illustrations and stuff like that. So when I kind of thought that, then I started to think, okay, so what do we call it? And I came across some websites that are devoted to just 1920s slang words. Slang words, a lot of them which we use now, like the bee's knees and the cat's pajamas and mazuma, which means cash money, and it was basically 1920s slang that was developed in the Cotton Club and in the speakeasies and stuff like that. Just like the young teenagers have their slang word now in text and all the rest of it. It's a very similar thing. But I had to kind of find one of those things that wasn't already taken by Instagram and Facebook and domain names and all the rest of it. And I wanted something that fit. And then I found this word, copacetic, which means everything is all right. Everything's satisfactory, everything's okay. And it was actually coined by Bill Bojangles, who's a really famous African-American singer in the Cotton Clubs in the 20s. And when he'd finished his set, at the end of his set, he would just say, everything is copacetic.
Okay.
And I love that, and I love the story behind it, so we used that story behind the brand and everything else, and then it just made more sense when we were looking at the brand and how we wanted to look, so we could talk about the history behind it and this whole story and everything, and then it just became easier to, because every time we want to bring out a new product or something, we can find something from the 20s. There's this huge pool of design and stuff that we can pick from, and art deco design and stuff, so I found a couple of illustrators that I really like, and they're doing some illustration work for us. So all the marketing and the posters and stuff that we've done are all illustrations and stuff. So I'm wanting those to be able to sort of stand the test of time, and then we'll be obviously slowly putting that out. And then it was like, well, what products do we have? I mean, the pomade is the product of choice at the moment still. Although I think things are moving away a little bit from that. Things are starting to go drier, softer, and more movement. Especially with people like Alan Beak, who I really admire, and his work is just immaculate, and you can see that's kind of the way that things are moving, and now things are sort of, the classics are always there, they've always been there, the pompadours, the jelly rolls, all those vanguards, love doing those haircuts, but you're moving with the times, and I think Alan Beak's hit it bang on with kind of what he's doing with those kind of softer finishes and the way in which he finishes the haircut. I really love his work, and I like him. I really admire him as a barber as well. And as a person, he's just such a lovely guy, him and his brother. So pomade was obviously the first one that we did, and then we wanted a matte finish, so we had clay, and then a semi-matte, which is the paste, and then I wanted something that was kind of in between all that as well for this different styles. So it's the cream that we've developed, which now I've just kind of made some little tweaks to the formulas, and now the cream is going to be like kind of a grease without the grease. Okay. If that makes sense. So it's like an old Brill cream type product, but it's water based, so it just comes out of the hair really easy, but it retains the moisture all day long. So
it glows instead of shines.
Yeah. And then the other accoutrements, like the tool rolls and the apron and stuff like that, like I said to you, was just stuff that we wanted for us to have in the shop, and I had those made. And then once the pictures were seen on the internet, then it was just like everybody wanted them, so we started trying to make them, and now everybody's making them and selling them, and I think we started wearing those 6 years ago, I think, was when I first, 7 years ago was when I had we started having the
people have tattooed them on, and you've sold them in Africa. And
oh yeah, the t-shirt as well. I mean, that was crazy. I think that was one of the things that started it for us as well. Quinn from Parlour Tattoo Prints, because those t-shirts were a temporary uniform while I was getting the aprons made, and I approached her and asked her to do this design, and she took that design from a client of mine, a picture that I won for American Crew, and she turned it into that, and obviously the rest is history. It's just been everywhere, tattooed on so many different people. And I remember really early on, some girl sent me a picture of herself in the bath, and she's got this bubble bath, and there's a picture of her leg sticking out the bath, and the whole of her thigh was tattooed in that image, and I was just like, this is crazy. And still now, I still keep getting these messages with that image being, but I'm not surprised, because it's a fantastic image. It really is. Yeah.
And the whole thing of Savills started by your own admission on the back of fags.
Yes, yeah. yeah, that was it. You know, but just you know, the whole design and the thought of it all and everything. Just like I'm not, it's like, what should we do? I don't know, scribble the name down on the back of a packet of fags type of thing. That was kind of it, really.
What was Copasetic just scribbled on the back of?
You know, I don't think, I think that was just kind of really internet based, I think, really, when we was thinking about that, because I was just looking at it all the time and then writing it down, and then, you know, and then I mean, I still love the name, but nobody can pronounce it. Copasetic, especially when you get into different countries, it's really funny how some of the pronunciations that people come up with, it's really funny. But in the States, it's used on a daily basis. People understand it, they know what it is. But in the UK, it's not really a widely used name. But I think now people are starting to become a little bit more familiar about it, because when we're on stage, we're hammering it and talking about it all the time and what it means.
Okay, so Wahl identified the fact that Savills are doing something really good in terms of their style of haircuts. As such, they appointed you as an educator stroke ambassador. Tell me a little bit about what people could gain if they came to Savills Barbering Academy.
So at the academy, because we're a 10-station shop, and we have 6 chairs down one side, 4 down the other. And at the beginning of the week, all the guys are having the days off, so we've got these kind of 4 chairs spare. And for kind of 12 months, I was getting constant messages of people saying, oh, would you do DVD? Would you do a YouTube video? Would you do training? Can I come and do some training? Can I come and stay at the shop? And I was just like kind of ignoring it for 12 months, thinking, you know, because we were just so busy in the shop anyway. And I had so many requests for it. I just kind of thought, maybe we should do our own academy. And so I thought, right, we'll put it out there. And then the next thing I know, we were like booked up 12 months in advance. And it's just crazy. And I kind of pinch myself at how far people are travelling just to come and spend 2 or 3 days in the shop. I mean, you know, I have people from Australia and New Zealand and all across Europe, and it blows me away that these people sometimes spend more time travelling than they actually do on the course itself. But yeah, I guess that's just kind of, you know, very much social media driven, really, because those people wouldn't be travelling without that. And obviously people who just really seem to like what we do. So we only deal with it to a maximum of 4 people. I always wanted to keep the classes really small, because when I've done education before or I've been to education and there's huge classes of people and maybe only one person covering like 10 or 20 people, the training just doesn't get done as good as it could be, because by the time you're doing the first person and you've set them underway, because you're trying to set them on with something new, and then by the time you got to even the 3rd or the 4th, 5th person, the person at the beginning is like kind of like tapping their foot, waiting for you to come back to take them to the next stage. And by the time you get back to them, they've probably been stood there for 10 minutes waiting for you, because they don't want to do the next step without you. And it's really important, I think, when you're being taught, to have some kind of flow within the haircut, so you're constantly kind of moving. Otherwise, if you stop starting all the time, it just doesn't. I don't find it that's a really good way to kind of educate. So that's why I keep the classes really small, because we have had the opportunity to move it out a few times and haven't, and also because the guys that have and the girls that have come on the course, when we send out the feedback forms, one of the things they've said is that they love the fact that it's done in the shop, and we do it alongside everybody working and everything, and they get the full atmosphere of everything. But what we do and what we teach is not groundbreaking. It's nothing different. It's nothing that hasn't been taught for well, you know, hundreds of years, I guess. You know, But it's a kind of method that I've kind of developed with working with loads of different people, and I've been really fortunate to work with lots of different people over the years, and so I've picked up the things that I like, and I find this kind of real clear method way of working, and so you always know where you are within the haircut and hair type, and where you start and where you finish. We do everything on live models, there's no blockheads, and I just kind of... one of the first things I say when we sit down with the guys is, what do you want out of this course? What do you want out of these 4 days? You tell me what you want and we'll make sure you get it. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in closing, what words of advice would you offer to someone who wanted to build a world-renowned shop and academy and possibly apparel and pomade line?
Run. There isn't an answer for that for me, because I never intended any of this to happen. I started with a little 3-chair barbershop and I was happy with that, and if I was still cutting in there now every day going in, I'd still be happy as a pig in shit. It's all happened by accident. If I'd have tried to build that shop and tried to build the product range and set out from the beginning, right, this is by this month I'm going to do this, by this year I'm going to do that, and by that, I just don't think it ever would have happened the way it would, because it's sort of happened organically, and it's happened organically because, you know, as hairdressers and barbers, we're very creative anyway, and my mind's always racing, and I'm always doing different things, and my wife will tell you, she's like, we stop taking on another project, and I'm always taking on another project because I'm everywhere at once, or all at the same time, trying to, you know, do these different things, because I'm always thinking of the next thing that I want to do, but I'm not thinking it because I want to get to somewhere, I'm just doing it because I like it. So I just say, if, you know, you've got to love what you do,
100%.
simply. Yeah, and if you love what you do and you're passionate about it, it'll just happen naturally.
Okay.
If you try to get to something, it's never going to get there. Just love what you do, be passionate about it, work hard, and it'll come.
There you go. Joth Davies, thank you ever so much for
Thank you.
your story, your time, everything, and I wish you every success in the future, whatever that may be, because I know you're not going to listen to Annabelle, your wife, and you're going to continue to take on these projects, so may they be successful.
Thank you.
And I wish you well. Thank you.
Thanks.